Okay, everybody. Well, look, welcome. Welcome to another live training on a Tuesday here with One Source Personal Development. Can you believe it? The weeks are flying. We're already we're into June 2022 tomorrow. So the weeks and the months are absolutely flying. So what are we going to do today? Today, well, I want to talk about something that I think that we all need to actually focus on a little bit more and maybe become a little bit more aware of it. The biggest challenge that I believe you and I face, both in our own personal development for our own private and personal use, and for the clients that we're serving, the challenges that they face. So, in my opinion, I believe it's all self-doubt. Self-doubt is it's a killer of confidence and achievement because you're always questioning yourself. You're always doubting, do I have the ability to achieve what I want to achieve? Do I have the ability to excel in work? Do I have the ability to go ahead and work with clients, even though maybe I'm not at the level that I want to be at yet? And your clients are basically experiencing the exact same doubt, but in just different areas of their life. So what I want to do today is I want to dig into it a little bit deeper to see if not only can we identify it, but if we can come up with or explore maybe some techniques that we can use to manage it a little bit more effectively. You're not going to remove it, but if you can learn to manage it a little bit more effectively. So, what really is self-doubt? Well, in my opinion, it's a feeling of just having no confidence in two things: in your ability and your decisions. So, if you think about it, that's exactly what happens when you're not progressing, you're not creating that, lasting change or the result within yourself, or when your clients aren't doing it within their selves. They just don't have confidence in their ability to do it, and basically that almost cripples them where they can't make decisions, or if they do make decisions as far as the actions, well, what's going to happen is they're not going to have any confidence in those decisions, that they're the right decisions. And that's your role primarily as a consultant, as a coach, to go ahead and help them along, help them along to gain a bit of confidence in their ability, and to ensure them that the decisions they're making are the right decisions, because you're going to hold them accountable. You're working with them. That's your role, to support them in that area. But in my opinion, and truth be told, it's not just my opinion, it's the opinion of most experts. Self-doubt can be a very positive thing. It can be very good for you. It's definitely instilled in all of us, and it's there for a reason. And believe it or not, I think you already know the reason because we've covered this before, but we refer to it as other things. But we're going to dig in a bit deeper. But I think we all know that we all go through, when any of us go through any type of a crisis, of either confidence, whether it be on an ongoing basis or just the occasional time to time, um, we all experience that feeling of doubt, you know. But the truth be told, it's the only way forward. Like I say, it's there for a reason, and it's there to help us to grow. It's there to get us out of our comfort zone, and it's there to help us move forward and make us stronger. But what are some other reasons why self-doubt can be a good thing? And the reason I want to kind of focus on this is because I want to make sure that not only you're aware of it, but when you identify it with the clients that you're working with, because I guarantee this is the biggest problem that they're all having, that when you identify it within the clients you're working with, you can provide some solutions. You can be able to talk, well, hopefully at a reasonable level of intelligence on the subject. But the first thing why I believe that self-doubt can be a really good thing is it helps us to assess the situation. It's like I say, it's there for a reason. When you're feeling self-doubt, there could be a very valid reason. Could be a dangerous situation. It could be a case that, it really is a bad decision. Like if you didn't have self-doubt, you'd be in some serious trouble because you'd be making wrong decisions all the time, getting in way over your head and possibly putting yourself and others in danger. Self-doubt is can be a very positive thing, but again, just look at it whenever you feel that feeling of self-doubt. Well, you need to assess the situation. Is it valid? Is that doubt there? Is it genuine? Is it valid? Like for an example, if you were to want to say in the area of your finances, you decide that I'm going to get into cryptocurrency and I'm going to take my entire life savings and I'm going to invest it into this cryptocurrency because I know I'm going to succeed because I've seen other people and I've heard about all these amazing people in stories where they invest small amounts of money and they become multimillionaires in short periods of time. Well, that might be a situation you want to assess. If you're feeling that feeling of self-doubt, it could be a very valid reason. I'm not saying you shouldn't invest in crypto. I do myself to a small degree, but you definitely don't want to take your entire life savings and just throw it into it. Or it also could be a big source of motivation because when you have that feeling of self-doubt and you assess the situation, you'll discover some things and you could reinforce your belief that, yeah, I do have some doubt, but I really believe I can achieve this. I can produce the result that I'm looking for. And that's going to be a source of motivation for you. It could be a sign of, self-doubt is a sign of awareness. A sign of awareness is a very positive thing. It's a sign of intelligence. Again, we talk about awareness all the time within the dashboard, within the actions we're taking. Self-awareness is a very positive thing. And self-doubt is often the trigger that creates that awareness. It gets you to really assess the situation. And again, when you assess the situation, you're going to become very aware all the positives, all the negatives. It can also help you to understand your boundaries. We all can't be all things in all situations. What you need to understand and what your client needs to understand that you have to know your limitations. I'm not saying you don't push your limitations. You don't get out of your comfort zone or you don't attempt to grow. But in reality, you have to know your boundaries. If it's going to affect your health, if it's going to affect your relationships, your finances, if it's just not a skill set because you've tried over and over and over again, it doesn't mean you can't achieve that goal. It doesn't mean you can't produce the result. It just means that you know your boundaries. If it's not something you're really, really believe that you can achieve, because for whatever reason, well, you may have to step outside and get the resources elsewhere. You may have to consult with some people. You may have to recruit some people. You might have to hire somebody to produce that result for you. So again, it doesn't mean that you can't produce the result. It just means that maybe in that particular instinct, you're not the individual or your client is not capable because of some boundaries that they have that they just can't do it. And that's okay. Like I say, a man's got to know his limitations, or a woman as well, obviously. It can also help keep you on track because, again, if you have a deadline, you're trying to produce a result, if you're trying to achieve, accomplish a goal. Well, if you don't know your boundaries, if you're not, if you're not aware of what's going on, if you haven't assessed the situation, if you're not feeling motivated, well, chances are you're going to get off track. You're really never going to achieve the goal, or produce the result, because you're going to be pulled in a lot of different directions. You're always going to be in reaction mode. You're not going to proactively be taking those steps that you need to be taken to produce the result that you're looking to produce. So again, those are just some, but I'm sure if you put your head to it, you can really come up with a lot of ways. And again, what I'm trying to do is to, I suppose, get you to condition yourself not to be afraid of self-doubt. Again, it's there a lot of time for a valid reason. And a lot of times it could be a very positive, it could serve you. But there's a lot of different words used to describe self-doubt. You could say that, or phrases, he's overthinking or insecure, or, lacks the confidence, doesn't have, the ability to go ahead and produce the thing, the result they're looking for. But in my opinion, the most accurate word or phrase to describe self-doubt is uncertainty. And this is something that we've studied. You've studied it, I've studied it. We understand that uncertainty is one of the basic 6 human needs. We've done this a couple times now, about 4 or 5 different times. It's embedded into the system that we use as one of the basic needs that we fulfill using the one source personal development system. But self-doubt really is nothing more than an uncertain feeling that you can produce the result. That's it. So, and again, we all know it's a basic human need. And we also know that uncertainty is extremely valuable. It gets us to grow. It gets us to take different actions, to find certain activities, things that we can do that are going to produce the results and produce the pleasure and avoid the pain in our life. Uncertainty can serve you well. So we need to start reminding this to ourselves and to our clients, because again, this is the biggest challenge that we're all facing, is that self-doubt. And in reality, like I say, excuse me, just take a drink of water, sorry. In reality, it's a very positive thing. It's a basic human need. It's uncertainty, your need for uncertainty. And we know, again, it's the second of the 6 basic human needs that we all have. And it's basically, it's not just about variety, that's part of it. But again, it's to push you to try new things, to get out of that comfort zone, and to grow as an individual. Because if you're only doing things all the time that you are certain were going to either give you some sort of pleasure, or at least be a neutral experience for you, that it was going to help you to avoid a painful situation, well, you'd be very limited in the actions that you're taking. That need for uncertainty gets us out and trying new things. And even though we're terrified and we're uncomfortable, and it's fearful to us to try these things because we're uncertain as far as what the result is going to be and what's going to happen, it also adds a bit of excitement as well. So we need to start thinking, when we get that feeling, that emotion of self-doubt, all that is a signal from our brain that basically, well, maybe it's time to step out of your comfort zone. Try something new, push yourself to grow. And if you start to condition yourself and get your clients to condition themselves in that manner, well, I think you'll feel a little bit more comfortable when you experience that feeling of self-doubt. We need to start to really, really shift our focus to where we embrace uncertainty. But again, you'll see there's some things you're going to obviously want to do. You don't just because you feel an uncertainty, just jump into it. You're going to want to evaluate the situation. You're going to want to validate to see, is it justified or is it not? But we really do. We need to start conditioning ourselves and get our clients to condition themselves to embrace that level of uncertainty. So how does it affect the other areas of your life? How does self-doubt, that feeling of self-doubt, how does it affect, for an example, your relationships? Well, if you think about it, if you're always living in a state of uncertainty, well, you're never really going to raise above the opinion you have of yourself, because you're going to have a lower opinion of yourself if you're always living in that state of uncertainty. And that's going to totally affect not only your life, but the lives of your family and the people around you. Or as far as, your ability to give and receive love. Well, no one can love you more than you love yourself. So again, if you're always in that, experience that feeling of self-doubt, it wears you down if you do it in a negative way. And again, it's going to make your relationship with yourself not as strong as it needs to be. You're not going to love and respect yourself to the level that you're capable of, which in turn is going to affect the amount of love that you receive, because that is the reality of it. No one can love you more than you love yourself. So it's just things to be aware of, and it's things to make sure that your clients are aware of. And what about in the area of your friendship? Do you think when you're living in a state of self-doubt in a negative way on a consistent basis, do you think it affects your friendships? I guarantee it does. What's going to happen is you're going to settle. You're going to put yourself into a peer group or to a group, a social group, just to connect, just to basically, have some form of connections with people. But because you don't love and respect yourself enough, because you're always living in that state of self-doubt, you're going to make poor choices in that area as well. You're not going to be as confident, and your peer group and in your environment is going to basically all reflect, because of the fact that you have a constant state or a fairly regular state of self-doubt in a negative way. Same holds true with your profession. You're going to stay in jobs that you really shouldn't be in. You're because you doubt that you can actually achieve, someplace else. As far as your finances, you're not going to go out there and you're not going to take the chances. You're not going to go ahead and you're not going to advance in your career, or you're not going to go ahead and learn new skills, all because, well, you doubt your ability, or they doubt their ability to to actually excel, to actually learn the skills, to produce the results that are primarily going to attract more money into your life, either through your job or through your business, or in your investments. So if we understand that it's all about that feeling of uncertainty, and that can actually be a very positive thing, because again, uncertainty gets you to get out of your comfort zone. How do we go from a state of uncertainty to a state of certainty? Well, before we start getting into that, what I want to do is I want to take a look at what not to do, because I want to be careful that you don't incorporate some of these things into your own life, but also when you're giving advice or providing solutions to your clients. So the number one thing I would ask you to keep in mind, that when you're working with somebody, or even if it's yourself, and it has to do with feelings of self-doubt, don't just jump in there and tell them to use affirmations. It's something that's very common. You see life coaches do it all the time. You see psychotherapists do it different times. You see different consultants. I know there's been people in our group, when I've met with the people they're working with, where I hear about different suggestions made around affirmations. But affirmations can be very powerful if, and only if, it's not a very strong self-doubt. If there's a serious self-doubt, again, it could be there for a reason, but just telling someone to say things, along, say, oh, I'm good enough, I can do it, that truthfully just really isn't going to work. Like I say, if you're doubting something minor, or something that, maybe you believe you can a little bit, but you're not 100% confident you can really produce the result, you might be able to get yourself pumped up by saying, I can do it, I can do it, I can do it. But in reality, it's really not going to do much. And it's not really good advice, I believe, uh, for you to be using on yourself, or to be sharing with others. And the number one reason, you don't believe it. Saying something over and over and over again in your subconscious mind that you don't believe is counterproductive, because all you're doing is reinstilling that limiting belief, or that disbelief that you can achieve that result. Because every time you're there, I can do it, I can do it, I can do it, your brain is just thinking, no, you can't, no, you can't. It's you're producing the opposite result of what you're looking to achieve. In order to get to the stage where the affirmation, or use the power of repetition, you have to first start focusing on building a belief that you can actually produce the result that you're looking to produce. To believe with to believe with certainty, you have to start with the doubting, start with doubt. But again, you're going to want to validate. You're going to want to validate that it is genuine. But if you look at Napoleon Hill, and we all know this because we all do our purpose statements, we all know how our purpose statements were basically evolved, or they've just evolved from what Napoleon Hill talks about in Think and Grow Rich. Faith is a state of mind which may induce or create by affirmation, or repeated instructions. That's the key phrase there. Repeated instructions. Words like you can do it, that's not really a repeated instruction. That's a weak affirmation that basically you're not going to build any belief in. But if you do repeated instructions to the subconscious mind through the power of autosuggestion, or the power of repetition, as we like to say, you can produce that level of belief that's going to be required to get out of that state of self-doubt. So if you look back to your definite major purpose, and I know it's like you guys all say your definite major purpose, I know you've redesigned it over a period of time, but what are the steps? Well, decide exactly what you want, what you're willing to give to get it, set a specific date to get it by, Write an exact plan, which is the key, exact plan of how you will carry it out. Write your clear, concise statement summarizing everything, and then read it aloud twice a day. That's a lot different than just saying an affirmation. Um, if you remember from when we designed our plans, our statements, I should say, we used the 3-step plan. We've condensed it. First, you have to know exactly what you want. So if you're experiencing self-doubt, well, what do you really want? How would you like to feel about it? What would you like to primarily, achieve? How would you like to feel about achieving the result? Also, too, why do you want it? And then finally, you have to have the plan of how you're going to get it. Again, that's a lot more powerful than just saying an affirmation. If you do it in that stage, that 3-step process, and you use the power of repetition to do it over and over and over again, you'll build a belief, you'll create the faith that you really can, achieve that result. That'll instantly move you out of a state of self-doubt. Your subconscious mind will instantly accept that and start working on your behalf 24 hours, 7 days a week to go ahead and produce that result you're looking for. But you're going to take time, and you're going to always add emotion into it again. The exact same steps that you use to create your purpose statement, you can use those same steps to go ahead and eliminate self-doubt in key areas that are holding you back. So if you do have self-doubt, how do you go about removing it? That's one way we just showed you. We showed you how it doesn't work, affirmations don't work, and how you can basically do it by creating faith or instilling a belief that you can through the power of repetition and through taking the 3-step system. But what's another way? It's a technique that I encourage you to learn how to use with yourself and to use with your clients. It's name, reframe, and then check in. And it's relatively simplistic. If you experience any feeling of self-doubt, well, the first thing you want to do is you want to acknowledge it. Okay? You want to identify it. You want to identify the feeling that you're having. You want to identify what's associated to it. What is the belief that you're currently having around that area of self-doubt? Again, you want to acknowledge it, and then you want to address it. Then you want to reframe it. Okay, because chances are a big part of the time that feeling of self-doubt all comes from a false or belief, something that you have associated within you, that it's a false or belief that primarily you've identified it, but you've identified primarily the wrong belief to it. So you want to challenge it. You want to ask empowering questions. Is this valid? Do I really believe? What would I have to believe to feel this way? And more times than not, if you really challenge it and you really reframe it, that's going to be enough. But then you check in. When I talk about checking in, I'm talking about checking in with your consultant, your coach, or when they check in with you. Run it by, brainstorm, talk about it openly with people that you respect, people in basically, that they're going to work on your best interest and they know what they're talking about. So name, reframe, and check in. You really should get used to it. Take a note of it. Start trying to incorporate it into your own life, because I guarantee you there's several times each week where you're experiencing these feelings of self-doubt. that you can use that technique. And it'll take a while before you really get good at it, but it definitely is a strong technique you can use on yourself, and you can teach it and share it with others. Also, too, you want to make sure that when you're experiencing those feelings of self-doubt, you know, a lot of times it's the self-talk. It's this, you want to do your best to remove, as many self-doubt thoughts and, the self-defeating language, that negative self-talk that you're using on a daily basis. You could start trying to reframe things when you think about it. You could say, in the past I felt this way, but in the future I'm going to do it this way. I feel this way. Again, it's not just an affirmation. Why? Because you're basically doing it in a format that you're coming up with a plan of exactly what you're going to give, what you want, and why you want it. But the main thing is you're going to attach positive, strong emotions to it. And through the power of repetition within your own brain, you can start to recondition in yourself. Again, even as far as, just different thoughts, trying to change the associations. Like we said earlier about, instead of referring to, saying, oh God, I doubt that I can do this, start just trying to identify it as a level of uncertainty. And well, uncertainty, that can be a very positive thing. Uncertainty is just one of the 6 emotions. We all have levels of uncertainty. All of a sudden, just by changing the language, well, it's basically changes what it represents. Another technique to do is protect your environment. If you're in situations, whether it be your relationships, with your social group, with your work and your colleagues, always love yourself enough to remove yourself from anything that just isn't good for you. If you're feeling, having these constant states, and again, this is different than just the occasion or the day-to-day self-doubt that we have, but I'm talking about an intense self-doubt state that you're experiencing, where your client is experiencing on a regular basis. I think you need to really sit down and take a look at the environment there. Why are these feelings there? Are they in an environment where basically they never feel good enough because people are saying negative things to them? Where they're like basically in a job that they don't belong because they just aren't a good fit for that organization? Therefore, they're making mistakes all the time, or they're always lacking behind, or they just can't keep up. So they feel as if they're just not good enough. There's a number of different reasons, but always make sure, again, love yourself enough to remove yourself from anything that you just know in your heart isn't good enough. Your environment will trump willpower each and every time. Willpower works in the short term, but it's not going to be very effective long term. So if you're in an environment that's just generally not healthy for you, and you're again experience that consistent feeling of self-doubt, you need to find a new environment, because the quickest way, the safest way, the most guaranteed way that you're going to produce the result is by putting yourself into a better environment. It trumps willpower each and every time. Willpower will always be, actually, maybe I shouldn't say always, in most cases, will always be short-lived. Take control of your environment. Ensure that, it's predominantly a positive one. And I'm not trying to say everything's always got to be perfect and you can't have any type of negativity ever in your life. I'm just saying, make a conscious effort, to take control of the environment and ensure predominantly most of it is positive, not in a wishy-washy type of way, but just in a way that if you're in an environment that you're comfortable with, that you feel good about, that you enjoy being in, that you know is giving positive reinforcement to you, that's going to serve you. And that's what your clients need to understand. It's really going to serve that individual. The environment is critical, especially, environments that in the relationships or on the workplace or on the social level. You want to make sure that they're positive environments because you have control over that. I love the saying that, I don't know, I threw this in there only because I love the film so much. It might not be your cup of tea, but Jack Nicholson at the very beginning of the film The Departed, he says, I don't want to be a product of my environment. I want my environment to be a product of me. And that's a very negative film, but it's a great film. I love it, The Departed. If you haven't seen it, I suggest you do, especially if you like anything to do with organized crime. But I thought it was a great saying. I don't want to be a product of my environment. I want my environment to be a product of me. So, what's another great way to go ahead and, well, eliminate the feeling of self doubt? Get yourself a good coach. Okay. That's what the One Source Personal Development Network is all about. We all have coaches, access to coaches, and we're all coaches ourselves or consultants ourselves. But you bring in a third party, or a second party at least, that primarily can support you. Don't always try to do it. If you're having some serious issues, or obviously that's why your client would be coming to you because they're having some challenges and they need your expert advice. They need your support, your skills. Make sure that you're being a good coach, and make sure if you have an issue, that the coach you're going to hold them accountable. Make sure that they're basically providing you the value and the support that you need. A good coach is invaluable. The amount of improvement that you can make in your life, the amount of stress that you can get out of, the progress you can make, the growth you can experience, and the amount of self-doubt that your confidence level will grow through the through a skill coaching session. You want to make sure it's a good one. You want to make sure that you're providing as much value as possible. That's the whole concept of everything that we do here at One Source. We provide professional counseling, consulting, coaching, whatever you want to refer to it as. But again, we provide solutions and the skills to eliminate things like self-doubt through the system. If you think about it, the system is designed for everything that we're talking about when it comes to removing self-doubt. The consistent action, the positive, environment, as far as the good coaching that goes along with it. The conditioning, the power of repetition over and over and over again. Everything that we just talked about is all within the One Source system. You need to make sure that you understand that, and you need to make sure that your clients understand that as well. Now, also too, if you're in a situation where primarily you're really struggling, or somebody is really struggling with self-doubt, it helps to remind yourself all the time that you either overcame something you didn't know, or a fear that you had of the unknown. And that's part of what we do in the system too. By tracking the progress, you're always reminding yourself of the progress you made, the things that you used to think you couldn't do, that you can now do, and you can use that to your benefit. So with that in mind, what I want to do is I'm going to share a video with you. Now, This is a video from 2019. My wife and I were in Portugal, and I had done skydiving before. She was always terrified. She did not want to do it. She has a terrible. She doesn't like anything to do with heights. She doesn't like roller coasters. She doesn't like anything at all. When it entails any type of fear, the sense of falling. So she made up her mind. She wanted to overcome her fear, and she wanted to go ahead and she wanted to do a skydive. So while we were in Portugal, we went ahead, we went out to a place. She did a skydive, and I thought it'd be fun just to kind of watch it, you know. And I have to pre-warn you, it is, you could see the fear in her, but I'm so proud of her because she actually did it and she overcame her fear. But when I talk about, the reflection about, things, remember the times that you overcame challenges before, and you did things that you didn't think you could do. This is a good example, because even though it was a few years ago, still I don't want to say on a regular basis, but it comes up a good bit, about when she's faced with a challenge and she'll say, yeah, you know what? I remember the time that I didn't think I could skydive. And, I went and I actually did it. And when you see how scared she is and the fact that she does it, I think you'll get a good sense. So what I'm going to do very quickly, I'm going to stop the share for 1 second. I'm going to just share it again there, but I just need to turn on the sound clips. And hopefully this will work now. So it's about 6 minutes long, so it's probably a little bit longer than I would normally do, but I think it's worth it. I think it's fun. So, but what I want to do is draw attention, and she'll kill me for pointing this out. But you'll see at the beginning, before she gets in the plane, she's very confident. She looks a little bit scared, but she's trying to, be brave, and she's basically, trying her best, to put on a brave face and everything else for the camera. And she did amazing. But I find it hysterical when she gets up in the plane, and as they're inching towards the door to jump out, because she does a tandem jump with a professional on her back, strapped to her. She just starts, no. But at that point, it's too late. There's nothing that can be done. So anyway, we'll give it a watch anyway, and hopefully you'll enjoy it. So where are we at? Yeah, 2019 this was. My wife's the one in the middle there.
Look under the door, there's a step, silver step underneath the door. It says, you see it? No. You just go back down, and you make sure you have your feet under the step. Under, but on the step. The step you attach.
In for a penny and in for a pound.
All the people when over, yeah.
You ever heard it saying in for a penny or in for a pound?
Take a hand.
It must be an Irish.
Are you ready? That's your oven? Okay, come. One kiss. Whoa, yeah. Let's go, Elizabeth. Woo! Sorry.
She's doing her best, looking brave. Now the plane's gonna go up. I think reality's starting to sit in a little bit. about getting out of your comfort zone. Holding her nose. She thinks she thought she was gonna get sick. Get a little bit braver. That's a relief now. She's starting to enjoy it.
Elizabeth now is the camera. Camera woman.
Oh my god!
Over there it's Lagos in front of us. Here it's Salvador, and in our left, Portimão.
Oh yes. Oh my god! This is great!
Beautiful.
Oh my god!
It's not God, but
This was John!
it was John, not God. I'm the only God you have now.
Oh! Wow! My life is in your hands!
I know.
Oh! Ah! Ah!
Ready for more, Elizabeth? Here we go.
She's actually holding the camera. She gave her the camera. I can't believe she's doing it.
Like it? You like?
My stomach is sick, though.
That's great. You like?
Yeah. Ah.
Again, you talk about getting out of your comfort
Okay, put the
zone.
landing. Knees up, feet up. Okay,
Okay.
bring your feet up as well.
Feet up,
Up.
like-
So
Okay,
many
out that way.
times
That's perfect.
Oh.
Sit the front.
she's done
Sit the
this.
front. And that way.
She's
A
faced
little
with
bit
the
spread your legs up.
challenge.
And then
She's
lift
really
your legs.
nervous to
Slide
come
down,
to like
bust
public
the breath.
speaking. She does a lot of public speaking now for her job. She used to
Okay.
be terrified.
That's
Do
the
any
most
type of
important
public
part of the job.
And she'll remember this and she'll refer to it. That's the power of getting out of your comfort zone.
Otherwise, we are not here.
But let's wrap it up with that. So yeah, I just wanted to share that with you. I just thought it'd be a bit of fun, but there's a valid reason. Like I say, she definitely was in a situation where she stepped out of her comfort zone and she grew because of it. She was very uncertain of what the results were. You know, she went ahead and she took action regardless. She validated the belief. She you know, she did a lot of research and everything else. She knows that I did it. She knows other people that did it and they were okay. So she, even though she was terrified, she pushed herself to do it. And now she has an experience that she, you know, that she'll be with her for the rest of her life. So anyway, look, guys, we're gonna wrap it up at that. Hopefully you enjoyed it. And I want to say thanks again for joining. Everybody who joined, those who didn't, that's fine. Hopefully you'll get the opportunity to watch this on the members only site and you'll enjoy it. And if there's any questions, comments, concerns at all, I'll be around for a little bit after. So thanks, everybody. Appreciate it. We'll see you next Tuesday.